Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Page Chewing Comics and Manga Pick of the Week. I believe this is episode 35. I'm Mike, and I'm here with my friend Steve once again. We're both a little bit under the weather or recovering from some kind of illness, but bear with us if we lose our voice. If you're joining us for the first time, we're two dudes getting back into comics after a hiatus, after some time away. We didn't have an episode last week, so this one's going to be a larger size episode. Over to you, Steve. How have you been doing?
I think we're both pretty scratchy and getting over our illnesses, but yeah, had an off week because of all the illness and sicknesses and losing our voices, but glad to be back and have a giant sized issue, a giant sized episode this week. Lots to talk about.
Yeah, and I think you're going to be kicking us off here.
Yeah, so my first one is one that I had to catch up on. I think you had talked about this one 2 weeks ago, and I had missed it, which is Crave number 4. By Image Comics. This is one that I think the first one or two issues I really liked. The third issue felt a little bit, it was kind of like, okay, where are we going with this? The fourth issue, we learned more about Crave and its origins, what the purpose of it is, kind of who's behind it, what why it exists. I still think there's lots of themes about, lots of commentary about social media and technology and the role it plays in our lives, the way that it influences us to do certain things or to think certain ways. And it's also about the information that we give it willingly give, whether it's social media or just, the internet in general. We voluntarily give up our privacy, and that can be used against us at pretty much any time. Data brokering is a big thing. So, it's a little scary. And this is just another reminder of ways that we can be manipulated very easily. It can have a lot of impact over our lives and emotions, and we're always connected and tracked at every turn. So, yeah, I think that's been probably my biggest takeaway from this one is just the impact that it has on all of us and the way that it can be used against us and how easily we give it up. And the art continues to it just fits the story really well. It's very, I don't say simple because that sounds like it's insulting, but it's very simple. It's very straightforward. It's not very detailed, and it doesn't have to be. I think just it focuses more on the characters' faces and their emotions based on the colors and the facial expressions and things like that. So I think that conveys us, that carries a story pretty well. I think it fits it pretty well. So yeah, I think even if issue 3, the pacing felt a little bit off, I think this issue was ramping things back up again. And yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. I think there's some interesting, it's been a thought-provoking series.
Yeah, and I can't agree with you more on, I think what you said there. I'm looking forward to see where it goes. I did read it a few weeks ago, so the memory is a little bit foggy, but I felt like the world was opening up a little bit. So I found it to be enticing still. And I just don't see a lot of, there's a lot of stuff that is being put out there. I'm not sure what you think. That's just kind of just covers a lot of the similar tropes and things that we've seen, and not always making commentary. And I think we do need commentary on what's going on in our daily lives, and maybe not affecting, maybe we don't think it's affecting us, but I really do think that's, not to go on some tangent here at all, but I do think that's the purpose of art, so.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a mirror that needs to be held up in front of us sometimes, and we don't always like what we see when we look in the reflection, but it's it's important to have those little reminders and kind of put ourselves in check sometimes, or have an artist like Maria Lovett put us in check. Let us, just a reminder.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to start us off, at least with my the comics I've read over the last few weeks, with something familiar as well, which is Kneel Before Zod #3. And I'm not going to go into it in too much detail, because I think you did that very well, Steve, the last time we spoke. So yeah, I think this is a good issue in that there is like kind of a big battle taking place, which is a continuation from issue 2, which I was, or maybe wasn't as excited about. I think, yeah, definitely takes an interesting turn. However, which I guess maybe my one complaint is that there was something where there's something takes place here. I know it's not really a spoiler to say that, we know that people from Krypton, like Superman, is, they get their power from the sun. And so that there's something done to the sun here in a matter of moments that I was just like, I mean, I know this is a comic book. I know this is superheroes, but I was just like, I don't really, it just wasn't plausible. It just it was like a big jump. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I think one of the questions I actually have, I have for you, Steve, is they mention the character of Drew Zod. Is that a different character? Because there's Zod with kind of short, slick back hair, and then is that like maybe I'm missing something, but is that another character?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure what doesn't ring a bell of. Yeah, but to your point about the sun, that was pretty silly.
Yeah, okay.
What happens at night?
Yeah, I don't know, something I was just like, I'm gonna, I think, I don't know how many issues they're gonna be. I wonder if this is probably gonna be a limited series, or it's gonna probably turn into some big event. Maybe, who knows? But I'm gonna see where this goes.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much with you on that one. I think it's enough to keep me interested. It seems a little goofy, but I think the tone sometimes seems very serious, and then things like the sun, it seems a little silly.
Yeah.
So I think there's some tonal issues there with, are we going to be, are we taking this very seriously, or are we kind of having fun with it and being silly? So, but not a huge complaint, but a little bit like, let's pick our lane.
Yeah, I like the coloring in here. I feel like there's a few issues sometimes where the panels, it almost, I don't know what the stylistic choice is, but like it like all of a sudden it seems like the facial features, the features of different characters get kind of muted or distorted, and I'm just like, I could not say that it's sloppiness or whatever, but I definitely noticed it. Just something, maybe a minor nitpick.
Yeah, I can see that too. I think when this book hits its stride, it hits it very well. But then there's times when it dips in things like that. So, but yeah, I think it's fine. I'd be curious to see if this is an ongoing series, or like you said, if it's leading into an event. I wouldn't mind seeing these characters interact with other characters from the DC universe, but then again, I'll probably be lost when they do, because I have no idea what's going on. So it's a double-edged sword. So speaking of art and colors, I read Our Bones Dust #4. It's the final issue, and I love the art. I love the colors, the tones. It's very deserty looking, I guess you can say. It's just really great art. This one started really slow, and we learned more throughout the series of what's going on, but just very, bits and pieces here and there. And then all of a sudden it ends. And my reaction was a little bit, what did I just read, and what's happening here? I'm confused, but I can kind of maybe see where they were going with it. how in this post-apocalyptic world, like humanity is hopeless, and we find a way to screw things up. And we had our chance, and our chance is done, and we're kind of this, the other beings in the universe or galaxy have kind of lost faith in us. Maybe I don't know. It was kind of a mess. It was kind of a mess. It was a little bit. I'm not anti-hopeless endings, but it seemed a little bleak. But maybe I misunderstood it. That's the thing. I'm not sure that I really even got it. Yeah, the last panel ends with maybe a shred of hope, but I'm not sure. So I just don't know. Overall, I'm not sure if I would recommend it. I think if you're on the fence and you're into, I'm a dumbbell, so maybe I just missed something obvious, but it seemed like the ending was a little bit ambiguous. So if those stories don't bother you, if you like those open-ended stories, the art's really great. It seemed very like there was something missing. There's a few things missing that just didn't tie things together enough, and it just so disappointing, because I think some of the characters had a lot of potential to be something really great, but we just didn't learn enough about them or about the world to really sink our teeth into them and really get to know them and kind of enjoy them. So yeah, I'm not sure. I hope there's another series, or this is part of a bigger universe or something, because it just seems like there's some unfinished business here that hopefully we get a chance to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you if you would recommend this, if this is the ending, and maybe that's something we should start doing. I don't know, but I think open-ended can be good. If it's like there is something to chew on, though. You need to. So I wonder if I'm curious to, maybe I would like to check it out for that reason, and then check back in with you. But yeah, it sounds like a little bit of a downer.
Yeah, a little bit. I think there's some threads there though but again, maybe I missed something. So
okay, so I think this is another case where we both read the same comic. I think we have a few of these today, and this is the AWA's Red Light issue number 3. I think we've both been enjoying this series. My big question going into this one was, will Lacey adapt to her new environment without giving too much away? So it's a question that I had, and then she's not alone as well. So other questions about how would we, the readers, we have not seen what the outside world looks like. We've only really seen like where she's been housed or where she's been used. I think that might even be the better term. And what's really cool about this issue, I thought, is she starts to interact with other AI characters. So she's not alone. We learn. I don't want to give too much away again, but I thought that was really interesting, because so this world is expanding here, and I mean, I will say there was a few kind of familiar, storylines or tropes, if you will, but I think it's done in a really interesting way. Again, this is making some, I feel, important commentary, if you will. The artwork remains, fantastic to me. There's a mix of like heartwarming and gruesome in here, and I think somehow straddles the line fairly well. I'm very curious what happens in the next issue of this quote unquote erotic thriller, which I read somewhere like on the back or something. That's what it's being called in the series. So I'm not sure if I would call it that, but I read that somewhere. Maybe that's just marketing or something, but
erotic thriller.
I did read that maybe like on one of the last pages or something. Like, I'm not sure if I would call it that. Anyway, but I wonder what you thought, Steve.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think there's some commentary there, and there's some You know, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to have these emotions, these human emotions? And I think there was even a scene in where she's watching there's a sporting event, like a fight, and it's kind of like even there was a little bit of touch of, you know, people were watching this fight and people were being hurt or killed, and people were more upset about losing their bets than they were seeing someone suffer. So I think there was that disconnect of, you know, AI, we don't see them as, in this world, they're not seen as people. And at the same time, there's people who are suffering that we have that disconnect of, you know, we start to dehumanize people based on our position or in the world or whatever. So yeah, I think there's some and this is one of the things you mentioned a minute ago. There's a lot of books that are just, you know, they're just there, which is fine. There's other ones like Crave and Red Light that really have some themes to chew on, and some thought-provoking story elements that really make you think long after you finished reading the book. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I really like this one.
Yeah, definitely. I'm great. I'm happy to hear that you had a similar take on it. Yeah, and I think this is the penultimate issue, so we only have one more.
I'm a little bit sad about that. Yeah, a little bit sad, but it's been great so far. So my next one was called The One Hand. This is issue 2. Now, if I'm being completely honest, I thought, because the cover for this and for the Six Fingers is very similar. I read the Six Fingers issue 1 a week or two ago, a couple of weeks ago, and the cover has a similar. It was like a pattern or a shape on it, and I just picked it up. I just thought it was the second issue. So I picked it up, and I hadn't read issue 1 because it's a different series, but I think they're related. Either way, I really did enjoy it. It's a detective story, and a detective who is kind of looking back on life and you know, cases that got away or crimes he wasn't able to solve. The artwork fits the tone perfectly. It's very dark and dreary and moody and grim. So yeah, definitely. I didn't totally understand what was going on because I missed issue 1. But yeah, I think this has a lot of. I'm glad I picked it up on accident because it's a series that I'm excited to get into. But yeah, I want to learn more about what's connecting all these different stories, and yeah, so I'm on board with this one now. I just need to get issue 1.
Yeah, I just checked out the cover, and on the Image website says something about fans of Black Mirror will like it or whatever. So it does sound intriguing, and I missed that one. I don't even think I saw issue 1 either, but yeah, it looks cool. So so now I'm going to enter back in the world of Marvel here. I'm going to talk about, I read both issue 1 and 2 of the Ultimate Black Panther. So a lot of you we've discussed, and I think a lot of people that are following comics today are aware of, you know, the new kind of Ultimate series that have come out, and Ultimate Spider-Man seems to be a pretty big buzz, and I have yet to jump on the bandwagon, but I think I'm planning to. And so one of the things I had to do a little bit of research. Maybe you knew this, Steve, but like I was just like, well, what does this mean, Ultimate? Does that mean anything? It's just like marketing or whatever. But this kind of Ultimate series has existed for quite some time, but this is like a new take on, you know, all of the Ultimate Marvel series or universe, if you will. I'm sure I'm messing this up, but following the events of the Ultimate Invasion, which is a series written by Hickman. So I actually picked that up. I picked up the volume because they had it on the shelves. It actually looks really interesting. I want to read the backstory that got us to where we are, which is now a different version of Earth. In the previous Ultimate series, I think it was called Earth 1610. and this one is Earth 6160. And so bringing us back to the whole Black Panther, Ultimate Black Panther, it seems like Khonshu and Ra, who are like representing Moon Knight, are controlling the continent of Africa in this series. And then there's many others, like other characters that are kind of in control of different parts of the world in this new Earth. And so we see T'Challa is basically pulled into essentially a war because they're kind of the last stronghold on the continent. Because I'm going to get into number 2 in just a moment here. I won't spend too much time, but I did appreciate this. I actually spent time working in and living in West Africa, so it takes place there. So that was something that appealed to me. However, I don't think they did a lot of homework. There is an interesting new character, which I believe is representing, people from Benin or Togo. They're called the Vodou Khan. And so that was very intriguing. They're kind of this mysterious people that can see the future, almost like a spy network that T'Challa works with. And so sure enough, in issue 2, we do learn more about them. And we find out that, I think a month has passed since the events of the first issue, and Wakanda itself is living in fear. And so T'Challa needs to kind of work with different spies or whatever. And there was a really interesting reveal at the end, which I'm not totally sure who this character was that kind of shows up to help him. I'm 90% sure, maybe 80% sure, and I'm very curious to confirm what happens in the next issue. I'm not going to say I'm over the moon with the series. I think I like it. I'm just trying. I want to try something out here and follow it along. And like I said, I'm going to give the Ultimate Spider-Man a try as well, and then hopefully read this Ultimate Invasion backstory, which is, like I said, it's I have the trade paperback. So anyway, a little bit long-winded there, but I did cover 2 issues. So
no, it was good. I know you sent me the picture of your trade, and I was looking for it now to see if I can find it. Anything Hickman, yeah. He's one of those, we talk about creators that we've been kind of following, and I've followed Hickman for a long time. I haven't read all of his stuff, but there's certain writers who you're willing to give it a shot, even if it's something like Ultimates.
Yeah.
I love Ultimate Spider-Man. I was trying not to give in to the hype, but I gave it a shot and I really liked it. And, I've been trying to give more Marvel and DC, kind of the capes and cowls stuff, more of a chance, but sometimes I just thumb through an issue and it's like, this is just not for me.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have something that feels fresh and feels like there's life, like there's new life pumped into it.
Yeah, definitely. And I forgot to mention the authors of this series, and now I'm not finding it, so maybe we'll mention it in the notes or something. But they're not like very prominently featured on the cover even. So yeah, it's Brian Hill and as the writer, and Stefano Caselli is the main artist.
Nice. So it looks like I have a couple here on the list, and so this should be fairly quick. So Skeeters is a series that I really liked the first issue. I really liked the dark, droll humor. As the series went on, it turned into more of a one-liners, wisecrack kind of thing. And it just, the longer it went, just the less I enjoyed it. I still like the artwork. It's the story is still fine. It's about this mutated mosquitoes that grow really big and they terrorize a small town, and they just kind of run out of control. The way that they're thwarted, or the way that, the weakness that they find in the mosquitoes was kind of funny. But it started off, the first issue felt like it took itself serious enough, but still funny. I think there's a line between having a horror comedy, but still taking it seriously and still taking it, your horror aspects. And then there's another way where you just kind of go all in on the humor and everything else kind of be damned. And it just, unfortunately, just didn't quite work for me as it went on. It's a fun line, but yeah, it was fine, but it's not something I'll probably read again. The gore was, if you're a fan of gore, there's lots of gore in it. But yeah, the final few issues just missed the mark for me. But overall, I mean, it was fine. I mean, it wasn't bad. I think if you're a fan of that type of humor, you'll really like it. It's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, it's too bad. I was following your excitement for the series at the beginning, but it looks like it's taken a turn.
Yeah, like I said, the first issue started more of a dry humor, kind of black comedy, and then it went into more of like the wisecrack zone. So the next one is for me is Kill Your Darlings. This is issue 7. This is a series that I've been reading since the beginning, and I always felt like it had a lot of heart. Kill Your Darlings has. This is another solid issue. The art is very vivid and colorful. It has this cartoonish feeling, but yet there's still a very serious and horror-ish tone or feeling to it. So there's this contrast there. There's also some very mythical bunnies and these creatures that they're stuffed in this really bad situation. So in this issue, we do get some questions, but we get some answers. Some of the answers we had, this big reveal, didn't have the impact that I think they were shooting for, but or that I was hoping for, maybe. But still, I'm looking forward to I believe there's one more issue to go. So curious to see where it goes. But yeah, overall it's been very good. The next one for me is Spawn 351. After the events of Spawn 350, I've been trying to get into these Spawn books because it's kind of not a reboot, but there's a big event that happens as a result of issue 350 that all the titles are changed. So it's kind of like a good jumping on point. Basically, after the events of Spawn 350, all the Hellspawns and angels on Earth lose their powers. And there's a power vacuum. And who's going to fill that power vacuum? Vampires, of course. So there's this war going on between these vampires who are trying to strike when everyone's down. And yeah, I thought it was fun. I really enjoyed the artwork, and I made a crack 2 weeks ago about how Spawn lost his powers, but still had this really goofy costume. Coming to find out in this issue, they can't just shed the costume; they have to wear it still. So, joke's on me. But yeah, I think it's been cool to get back into Spawn, and solid issue. I'll continue reading and pick up the other Spawn titles too.
Yeah, I actually picked up number 350, but damn it, I didn't. I forgot. I think I might have put it aside and didn't read it. So I will mention. Maybe this is getting into next week, but I did see in the comic book store this week a series called Salmon Twitch Case Files. I almost picked it up, but then I was like, oh, it's another Spawn series, and I wasn't sure. I hesitated, but I wonder if you saw that, but maybe that's a preview, or you might have picked it up already.
Yeah, I know there's a Salmon Twitch series way back in the 90s. I remember it being pretty good. I forget who did the artwork on it. It was somebody who was, I don't know if it was McFarlane did the artwork on it, but I remember it was a pretty serious book, the two detectives. So yeah, it's something I'll probably give a shot to. I'll pick that one up for sure.
So it looks like Simon Kudransky. Um, anywho, so I'm going to talk quickly about Dark Horse Comics Blue Book 1947. And this is number 2. I talked about the first one a few weeks ago, and when I started reading this, I'm sure other people knew this, but Blue Book is a series that's been in existence for a while. I believe the first volume came out in 2021, maybe even earlier. So this one is called Blue Book, subtitle 1947. I am starting to enjoy this a little bit more once I started to realize, this is not necessarily fiction. It's strongly inspired by true events. So there is news clippings. It's written in a narrative style that looks like, typewriter font. There's book clippings showing, things that I was like, is that real? So I actually started looking up some of the names of different characters, and sure enough, I'm convinced that this is inspired by true events, and even went into James Tinian's Substack and found out, a little bit more about this. That he's calling this his True Weird series, and also known as Strange But True. So that's how he was advertising it when it first came out. So this one takes place again in the in the 1940s. We have it's a pastiche, or there's multiple kind of events happening. One is we had the first pilot in the first issue, kind of comes back, but he's not alone. There's many other events taking place with these small aircraft that are either seen by pilots, or they're even in this case there was a boat captain who saw things falling from the sky from one of these flying saucers. And it's almost like an accumulated detective story, but there's no detective. So it's like these different characters coming up and telling their stories to journalists. And so there is kind of a journalistic narrative going on here. There really isn't a lot of dialogue. So it's almost more like more prose with, the coloring is monochrome, blue with blue, I guess, and black and white. I don't love I have to say, I don't love the artwork. It kind of reminds me of the Batman animated series in a way, which at the time I liked, but there's something about it that isn't working for me as well. But I really do like what's going on here, so I'm enjoying it. I just have to say there's some elements of the artwork that's not necessarily working for me. But overall, I would recommend anybody who's interested in UFOs or history. I have to say, I don't think it's going off the deep end of like conspiracy theories or whatever. I do think that the author Tinian is capturing, true events and putting it into this, adding his own take on it as well, in this book. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to continue. There is a second whole story in here, which is like it's like a strange but true monster. It's about a monkey man in Delhi in India, which I kind of skimmed through that one. I didn't read through that one as much. I'm a little bit more interested in the first story. So it looks like each one of these is going to have 2 of these kind of stories. But I think the main one is the UFO, strange but true stuff.
Oh, yeah. I was looking up the artwork. It does have that blue, that very blue, various shades of blue everywhere. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it looks fine. Like in a night scene, it works really well. But when it's constant, it just, I kind of lose interest in it when it depends on that so much. the color, variations are good, but yeah, it's looks pretty interesting. I wonder how close to eyewitness accounts or news of the time, how close it is, how close it follows all those things, and where they did their research.
I'm convinced. I'm not 100%, but I'm based on what I read. This is, like there was even a person's name in here of an author who wrote science fiction. I mean, I could go on a tangent here because I started to read about him, but he wrote about what he believed were these underground people that also came up in here. Now I lost his name. Well, Richard Sharp Shaver, I think, is mentioned here. And sure enough, it's a real person. So,
wow, interesting. Yeah, being here in New Mexico and here in Roswell, I think was around that time. So there's lots and lots of stories about government secrets and underground bases and all these weird experiments and bodies and
yeah. I mean, they're hinting at that for issue number 3 here, and I forgot to mention that there is a Man in Black character that also appeared, in this issue.
Yeah, nice, cool. So next up for me is the Infernals number 2, and this was very, very close to being my pick for the week. Alas, I just didn't quite get it there. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Infernals, it's basically Succession, the show on HBO. It's basically that, except instead of a media empire, it's who's going to run hell. Lucifer, or the devil, is dying, and he has some children, and he's trying to figure out who's going to carry the torch for him. And all the kids are really obviously have their own motivations, and there's some very effective dark humor, very funny, almost like pokes fun at itself sometimes. The artwork is just very just great. It's very has like a horror feel to it, and of course the story is very dark because we're talking about Satan and who's going to take over the reins of hell. But it fits it, but it's also very funny. And it's very this dry humor that I mentioned a couple of times already in this episode. There's some great family dynamics that pretty much anybody can probably relate to. And there's so not only do they have to deal with heaven and other demons and devils, they have to deal with their own family members, which it's pretty funny. Overall, the artwork, like I said, is really great. It's just fun. It's just clever and it's fun, and I'm a big fan of this series. I think it's onto something that's doing something special for sure.
Sorry about that. I had an issue unmuting myself for. Damn it, that sounds so good. I wonder if it's anything like Adam Sandler, Little Nicky. Made me think of that.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember, if you saw that one.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but have you seen Succession
on
HBO?
I haven't seen the last season, but
don't get me started on the last season of Succession. But as far as the kind of the it's basic. Some of it is a little bit on the nose. I'll admit some of it is a little like pretty close, but it's not. It's not like a carbon copy. But there's definitely inspiration. You can tell that that was definitely an inspiration for that portion of the story. But it's very it's just fun. It's just a lot of fun.
So, speaking of fun and kind of crazy, well, at least I thought it was going to be fun when I looked at the cover. This is from Dark Horse Comics, John Carpenter's Toxic Commando. I'm not sure how John Carpenter's name is associated with this because he doesn't seem to be an author, but his name is on there, so maybe inspired, or I don't know. But this is written by Michael Moretti with artwork by Alberto Jimenez Albuquerque. So, boy, this one is it's kind of a horror action story. So we've got a lot thrown at you in the first maybe 5 to 10 pages here. We've got CEOs, interdimensional beings, zombies, old men with man buns, and cults. So there's quite a lot that goes on right off the bat here. And so you're kind of wondering what's happening. And so one of the main characters, as I mentioned, he's a CEO of a big company, like a drilling company, and they're like drilling into the center of the earth. And this is causing all kinds of craziness. And, on the cover is a Cthulhu looking character with tentacles or whatever. So obviously that's one of the things that emerges, I guess, from the center of the earth. I just found it to be a little too much going on for me. And the artwork itself is more cartoonish than I would like for what it's about. Kind of reminds me of maybe like the earlier Scooby-Doo, like, from the 70s or 80s. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but it just didn't seem to fit that well. And for whatever reason, it just doesn't, it's not doing it for me. It could be, I could see people liking it that really like, kind of craziness, but I just couldn't really follow what was going on. So I'm probably not going to continue with this one, even though I'm a fan of John Carpenter. So that was maybe how they hooked me.
Huh. Yeah. So I always worry a little bit when I see John Carpenter's or a name before the title. Like, is he involved or are they involved?
I have no idea.
So
yeah, I maybe have to read the fine print. I don't even see his name mentioned in the special thanks. So,
maybe just a name only. Yeah. Well, that's a bummer. So the next one for me is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, issue 4. And I continue to love the series. So those who don't know, it's about a cuddly teddy bear named Sam who lives in a town full of, it's like stuffed animals. It's like a kid's fairy tale. These little friendly stuffed animals that just going about their day in this little small town, and everyone knows each other. And Sam has other hobbies, which includes killing people, and for I don't know why, for fun or just because. So she'll go out and she'll go to another town and kill people, and and she doesn't bring that back home to her town. But when another killer comes and starts killing her town, now it could bring attention to her and what she's been doing. So she's trying to track down who the killer is and who's killing her neighbors. So yeah, it kind of spirals out from there. I've compared this before to Dexter. There's actually a storyline in this issue that is kind of close to what they did in Dexter, the TV series. Not too close, but it was enough to, kind of like the Infernals and Secession, like heavily inspired by. So yeah, we do get some reveals in this one. We do get some answers. The reveal we get did seem a little rushed. It didn't seem like there wasn't a build up to it, for me anyway. But overall, I continue to enjoy the series, and not quite sure where it's going next. But yeah, I think it's just fun. The whole setup is it's just really just great. So they can do pretty much anything. I'll continue reading it just because I love the setup and the aesthetic. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what happens next.
Yeah, when you said it's the cuddly teddy bear, I started laughing because I read the first issue. I haven't caught up with you yet, but I plan to continue. And it's just so, I'm trying to think of other things like that where it's like, clearly this is more like the visuals are very appropriate for people, that are probably under the age of 12 or even much younger. And it's dealing with, these horrific themes. So it's fascinating. I guess it would be like if Gumby was like, a serial killer or something like that, or Winnie the Pooh. It's got kind of a Winnie the Pooh feel, I think, actually.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. It does have that Winnie the Pooh feeling. The color palette and the tones and the artwork. It feels like almost like a painter, like a painted. It feels like it's painted on. So yeah, it definitely has like a Winnie the Pooh. Not what was that recent horror movie that everybody hates? Blood and Honey. The Pooh Blood and Honey movie. I don't know. I heard it's terrible, but either way, yeah, it's pretty close to that.
Okay. So we are now getting to our picks of the week here, and mine is going to be Napalm Lullaby. Quite a title. And this is a big feature on the Image Comics website, which I just checked out recently. This is written by Rick Remender with artwork by Bengal. He's apparently a mononym. And it's a pretty big issue. I didn't count the pages, but it took me a while to go through this. I really took my time. I enjoyed it. I did have high hopes because I've been enjoying other work being done by Rick Remender. So I just think he's knocking it out of the park as far as I'm concerned, because we loved Sacrificers. I'm enjoying the Holy Roller as well, although there's like many, I think it's like 3 authors in that one. But this one has the look of a superhero comic, but I don't know if that's really what's going on here. This takes place in a world that I'm still trying to figure out. You can tell there's a lot more to the world. There's where we learn about one of the main characters who's like somebody that kind of dresses up like a bug, and then another character, the other main character that helps her wears like a clown mask, or I'm probably getting it wrong, but they're very stylish looking. Much earlier on, we do also find out about this this couple who come upon a baby, like who is maybe an alien, but not really clear. They could be coming from they're people that maybe were worshiping some other type of god. So again, you're not really sure. They don't give you a lot of backstory. So you don't really, is this Earth? It's maybe a weird version of Earth. And then there's a big time jump as well. I feel like I don't really want to try to cover the story because there's just almost like 3 very different storylines that somehow are working together for me. I don't know if I'm going to continue liking it or not, but I'm just very intrigued, and it's very different. There's some elements. There's a character in here that kind of, we can't tell if they're dealing with virtual reality or dreams, or they're being manipulated again in this kind of more futuristic version of this world. So there's just a lot of questions about what's going on, and what is driving these 2 characters that I mentioned earlier on, that they're kind of like superheroes. One of them has tentacles as well. I think I mentioned that earlier from a previous book. Anyway, I don't know how else to describe it, but for whatever reason, I find it original, and I'm interested. So we'll see where it goes.
Listening to you describe it, I was looking on the Image website, see if I can get it digitally. Sounds really great, though.
I mean, I can't do it justice. I don't know, for whatever reason. I mean, I could try, but I would then be describing it for like 10 minutes. So. But there is, it's almost like you're seeing several different scenes take place, and you're not totally sure how they connect, and hopefully that'll come together, you know, in the next few issues. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Rick Remender is another one that whenever he's on a book, it's like, I'll try.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I hope you check it out.
Yeah. It looks like it's, I can pick it up on the Image website, so I'll buy a copy. It's nice having the digital option for times like this.
Yeah. I haven't done too much of the digital, but maybe I should do more. I think I'm just trying my best to focus on my local comic book store. So I think it's a good idea. Whenever I mentioned to the comic book guy, though, I was like, "Oh, I didn't get that one." He's like, "I'll order it for you." So I'm like, oh, "Okay."
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah. I always support the store but if it's a back issue where I know that won't be in stock anymore, or then I'll, for the sake of convenience, sometimes I'll buy it digitally. But always prefer to support your local businesses, boys and girls. So my pick was kind of a tough one. I think I went back and forth with this one, which is Little Black Book by AWA. This one, so those who don't know, it's about a man who is expecting a child with his wife, I think, wife or girlfriend. And they seem like they're living they're living fine. They're, making it. They come to find out that his father recently died, and who he's been estranged from for many years. And his father leaves him this giant mansion across the country. And after they, of course, accept and they move into this mansion, they start finding out more and more about what his dad was into, the life he led, the friends he had. And this kind of setup is very, I guess you can say it's predictable. I think it's safe to say it's, kind of the whole, because they start learning about it, and they start learning about the life that he led. You learn about the family history and things that had happened long ago. We get little bits and pieces. They find a little black book, as the title suggests, and they start to call in favors for certain things. I won't give away what happens, but they call in a favor, and the favor that they ask for help with is taken care of, and you get the feeling that this will seem like a good thing right now, but eventually they'll have to pay the price in some way. It'll come back to bite them because they'll get in too deep. It seems more of like a suspense crime story, but it seems the setup is very familiar, but I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a great start to the series, setting up a lot of possibilities. And I just happened to pick this, pick this one up. I'm glad I did, because it was really kind of hit all the right notes for me. So I think this one was on your list too, right?
Yeah. No, and this one could have easily have been my pick of the week. I think I went towards the Napalm Lullaby, maybe because of the title, or I don't know, just because it was just so out there. And I like when these people are shooting for the fences or swinging for the fences. The one thing I did notice as like a little description, maybe I should stop doing this, but it said this is it was described as a hard-boiled neo-Western. So I have to say, I just, it's everything about it was another one of those cases where I was like, everything's working. I was like, I don't know what I read before this, but it just felt right. And kind of like the Under Heist in a way. I just felt comfortable with it, even though I don't know if, I kind of like Western. I want to get more into Western kind of stuff as well. Just not too much dialogue. It was very cinematic. And I thought the artwork was very clean and stylish, and I appreciated it.
Yeah.
So
It's a great point. I think it had, like you said, it had just enough of everything, just that it worked. Very I would say constant, very even. I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
Balanced.
It's balanced. Maybe. There you go. Sorry. Jeez.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, words fail me. Words are hard. So.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much gonna do it for us. Yeah, we had a pretty big. We covered a lot, and overall, I think we had some really good, a few winners here, and so I guess I'll hand it over to you, Steve, to close this out.
Yeah, I think we had a pretty decent couple weeks. I've been trying to pick up Marvel and DC stuff, and I thumbed through a few, and this is not for me. I think we're getting better. I know we say this every week, but I think we're getting better at picking things that we'll more likely to enjoy, and staying away from things that maybe if we hear other people talk about, we know that it's just not something that we'll necessarily enjoy, just because we don't, have all the background and continuity and the know-how and what's been happening. So, yeah, I think it's a really good week, really good couple of weeks, and I didn't even get to all my books this week, so. Good stuff. So thank you for listening. First of all, sorry, both of us are losing our voices, but thank you for putting up with us. And of course, if you'd like to get in touch with us, the best place is on our forums at pagedoing.com. Just visit our forums, register, and you can DM us directly there. We have a club set up for the podcast, and we're always scheduling new books to read, new books to discuss. I think we're reading Blame, the manga. We're reading Where the Body Lies. We're on a Brubaker kick. So yeah, come by, tell us how wrong we are, and come by and say hello and chat books with us. Or anything else. We're always talking about movies, books, comics, manga. I mean, we're always up to no good. So come and say hello. So thanks again for listening. Hope you have a great week, and we will talk to everyone very soon.
Bye-bye.